So, I had a minor religious experience on Monday because, as you know, I have filled my heart and my brain to the top like a shaken can of soda with 100 Line Last Defense Academy, and then all of a sudden, I was pierced by the Tumblr tag for 100 Line Last Defense Academy. I saw all of the art, all of the memes, all of the community stuff all at once, and I was filled with such joy that I felt kind of sick. But one thing that really stuck with me was art by artist Callie the Heart of Takimaru taking the Tsukumo twins to Disney World so they could just be normal kids for a minute and becoming some kind of adoptive father figure. And everything clicked. I was like, you're a genius. Dude, you understand these characters on such a deep level. I agreed so profoundly and so immediately. I was like, this is good work you're doing. And then I thought about it for a minute and I realized, yeah, wait a minute. Pretty much any of these characters could theoretically just adopt the Tsukumos, as they're all going to turn 18 soon. And I'm pretty sure that's usually when you're allowed to start adopting people. And they kind of need it. So it became a thought experiment. I have an in-depth ranking of every character, well, this main cast of characters, who I am proposing everybody survives and gets back to the TRC. The TRC is basically a normal place to live, basically similar to where they grew up before the war, I suppose. And everybody does, in fact, get money, as I have been given the impression they should be receiving money. And I am assuming the money they get from their service would be like enough to cover college and then, you know, like cover living expenses for the next 10 years or something. Basically enough to get a career going pretty comfortably. If you take all those factors, I honestly think a lot of these kids could become adoptive, single, young parents. And I am going to make the argument for who would be the greatest one, because like without dredging up all the lurid details and making Melovania's algorithm power even worse, somebody really needs to adopt the Tsukumos. Like, saying that the society they live in has failed them is such a chronic understatement. The adults around them like relished in exploiting and devouring them like sharks. Like, their lives are so bad. And for that reason, I think there are four ways that any of these kids could become the parent who stepped up and make a positive impact on their lives. I will be ranking them based on their resources they can provide. Mostly, do they have a family that can help take care of the kids? Do they have a house? Are they likely to buy a house or at least have like an apartment or something with their money? Are they going to move out? Are they going to move in with family? What are we going to do? Can they have a successful career even once the money runs out? What's that going to be like? Then there's emotional stability, which is a very important thing for parents to have. Not necessarily an abundant resource in this micro community here. Then there is good parenting, which I have as a mix of being good at things that parents should do, such as nurturing, consistently taking care of smaller people, and providing for your loved ones, but also, would you be a good influence or a bad influence on the Tsukumo twins? Finally, because it's them, there is a special topic for healing, which is, could these specific characters help in the healing journey and help these kids like regain their childhood, heal, move on, become a little bit less broken? There are some characters in here who I think might surprise you that have very particular sets of experiences that might make them very, very good guardians or caretakers, or just like, you know, at least older figures in these kids' lives to help them readjust to normal life once they go back to what should be a significantly safer and better life after the war. So I have played 70 hours, but about 20 of that was replays, so call it 50 hours. Main, like, first 100-day story, I did that. I've been exploring a bunch of the beginnings of a lot of different routes, but I haven't played any of them through, so I'm not going to spoil any story stuff. Basically just characterization stuff that comes out in the first less than 100 hours of the game, no context for when you would learn that. I think the spoilers are quite minor. In fact, a lot of this stuff you could learn from looking at the website for the game. But technically, if you want to learn all of like the fundamental truths about these kids and like what their lives were like before on your own, that is fun. So maybe you would consider that spoilers, but no story stuff really, just stuff I have learned with minimal context. Let's begin. I was listening to that recording and heard myself say, like, yeah, no, I think you'd be surprised how good of parents some of these people could be. And then I was looking at, like, Kurada, and I started laughing. Like, what the fuck am I doing with my afternoon? So, our first character, who is definitely an S tier, is Takemaru. He gets massive points, even though his stats may not necessarily add up to S. Nobody's stats are going to directly add up to their ranking because it's all very relative, as we will see. He has already been shown to be pretty good with both of the kids, and he is just one of the most stable and giving individuals who I think could also just kind of roll with them and their particular background being raised on the streets better than most people. So in particular, I gave him a B for resources. I, at this point, don't really know what kind of job he's gonna do, but he has one of the best work ethics of anybody here. He consistently shows up no matter what's going on, and he also seems to have connections. However, I wouldn't give him an A for, like, job potential because he's probably going to face employment discrimination due to being a very scarred up, intimidating gang member. So unfortunately, I don't know. And I also don't see like a specific career passion for him. He may even not be interested in traditional lines of work compared to like Subasa, who, yes, she also likes motorcycles and stuff, but she's going to be an engineer. Emotional stability, B+. I wouldn't say that he's shown a depth of emotional knowledge, certainly not like nuanced emotional knowledge, but he never really has an off day. He's very parent-coded in that he can kind of take care of himself enough to be there for people. And then good influence is SS+. I mean, good influence / parenting is what I ended up calling this term. He's just like, he's so nurturing, he's so giving, he loves to lift up people, he loves to lift up the kind of disadvantaged and weak, and he's already shown a really, really good side of himself with being able to discipline Ima. I mean, this bitch got Ima to respect him. It took a little bit of work, but he has actually gotten Ima to show some humility and respect him, and Kako loves him, and he loves Kako. They have a really good bond, I think, so I just see a lot of really good synergy there. Healing potential, I wrote down an A-. I might drag that down to B now that I've gone through and ranked everybody else. Again, he doesn't have quite the nuanced grasp on emotional topics. I think he can hear the kids out very well, and there's nothing they can say that would like shock him, but I don't think he's necessarily perfectly made to be like their dad or mentor. He's just a pretty damn good option, and trust you me, you will not get a more well-rounded package than him amongst the rest of this cast. As exhibited by Shoma. Shoma is going in the D tier for probably extremely obvious reasons. I don't know what this kid's gonna do for work. We know that he's not terribly smart. He's not like book smart nerdy, he's just nerdy. But, you know, he does have one thing going for him, which is that he loves animals. He loves taking care of animals. And I don't know what he's gonna do, but he's at least, you know, he's gonna do something involving animals. And that's traditionally a decently profitable world, even if he's maybe not the best worker because he's not good at existing, is kind of established in the canon. But then things get worse. Then things get significantly worse for little old Shoma. Emotional stability is an F. This might be shocking, but he's the only F tier. He is racked with emotional issues and has shown no coping skills. He might have the worst coping skills of anyone I've seen here. I don't think anybody would look at this kid and say, you are ready to be a father. I just don't think he's quite there. And then parenting B, okay, parenting's not quite that. I don't think he would be a bad parent. He's just not ready to be a parent. He's very nurturing. That's like one of his main things. He's very consistent, nurturing. He can do the kind of routine stuff you need to at least help run a household. But like, you know, is he going to be a good influence on the Tsukumos? I don't think so, because we know Ima will never respect him and kind of hates him for some reason at the start of the story, and I don't know what he has to teach Kako. Kako's a really smart girl, and I just don't fucking see it. Then healing, for similar reasons, is a D tier. I don't really see how the life experience and knowledge of Shoma is gonna help them. It's just like he's got parent stuff going on, but I feel like they know more than him about problematic parents at this point. I can't even really entertain it. Like, he's a good kid, but he's not a dad. He's not an 18-year-old dad. Hiruko. Hiruko could kill it if we were talking about like a more complicated thing where you can let people team up to be parents. It's a new thing I'm pioneering where single parents get together and then parent together. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about this, but it's been on my mind lately. But we're not doing that today because I don't wanna. Hiruko, resources A. I don't know what she's gonna do professionally, but whatever she does, she's going to kick ass in it. Emotional stability B. I know that she can take care of herself, which is very important. However, I don't know that Hiruko the warrior is going to be taking care of Hiruko the parent quite the same way. Like, I know she can get through hardship or whatever, but like, is her mom heart really going to be rejuvenating every day the same way that her kill things and stay alive heart rejuvenates? I don't think Hiruko, from what I know of this character, is well-rounded enough to have that kind of emotional stability. I feel like she's going to be running into things she can't handle a lot, as evidenced by a D tier in parenting, because she was in charge of these characters for a time, and that went terribly because she is, again, a lone wolf. I don't think her skill set lends itself to taking care of other people. She might be a good part of a team. However, I don't see it with the Tsukumos. I don't see her being a particularly good influence. Like, if Kako wants to get tough, there are other options here for like moms and dads who could make her tough. Hiruko tough isn't for everybody. In fact, she seems very cold and broken. I just don't see her being a good mom at this part of her life. However, healing, I gave her a C tier because, she's obviously been through some shit, and she definitely can help like be that firm voice to guide you through like those dark nights and panic attacks. But does she? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some stuff I don't know that would help her understand them, but like, I don't know. You drop a slightly larger hardened horse into the same room as two small, emotionally hardened horses, and I don't necessarily see the healing chemistry. I'm just gonna leave her in C tier. A similar, but maybe slightly more promising C tier would be Kyoshika, who is one of the weirder ones to think about, as she is almost more of a bit than a young adult to me, though she is the only person who has specifically said in my playtime so far, I am an adult. So if this is Kyoshika Magadori, what kind of mom would she be? I don't know. For resources, I'm going to give a B-. Again, resources is kind of a inflated tier, because these kids are all getting enough money to keep themselves afloat for a while, so a lot of people, even in pretty bad circumstances, can get something or other going with that money, and she can too, but I don't know what's up with her parents aside from her grandpa, and like, she's got her grandpa's house in the countryside, which is a resource, but I struggle to picture her thriving in the professional world, and I would feel cruel to get any more specific about why I feel that. Emotional stability is B. I think Kyoshika is emotionally stable for who she is. Not as much, like, I don't think she's as unflappable as some other people who I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think they have many off days. I'm sure she's fine emotionally, but I wouldn't say I have a lot of confidence in her adapting to new situations as they arise, which is pretty important for parenting. And then parenting itself is a B+, because I just kind of feel like she'd be okay at like looking after littler people and showing up every day. And she has discipline, for sure. She has discipline. She values family. She values her grandpa a lot. That definitely is good. Like, she would put a great emphasis on her adopted kids. But, I don't necessarily have any reason to see her as, like, a superstar mom. I don't know. She just seems fine. And then what kind of knocks her down to C tier is that, like, healing is a D. I don't think she's got this one. I'm not giving her an F. That'd be rude, but I don't know if you can give the kind of therapy that the Tsukumo twins need with quotes from Naruto and Bleach. I don't think she's quite there yet when it comes to emotional maturity. Speaking of which, now we enter someone from what I might be calling the normie trio. I don't know for sure. I'm playfully calling them the normie trio. I like Tsubasa as a character. I love her great, but she's so normal, and she's missing so many, like, tragedies, crippling mental situations, I don't know, cycles of trauma, homelessness. She really just feels like a kid, and not like a, oh, you need to grow up way. Just kind of like a, I don't think you're ready to be a mom way. A for resources, absolutely. I could even go higher because you know that she has a good family behind her who has her back. Grandpa's there. And in her case, I don't feel like she's with that grandpa because the parents are gone. I feel like she's with her grandpa because she wants to be, because she loves working with him. And she's gonna have a great career as an engineer or mechanic or something like that. There's no denying that she's gonna, like, be a breadwinner. She's a great resource unit in this battle royale of custody battling. Emotional stability, though. I'm not saying she's super emotionally unstable just, like, as an individual. Like, I think she's, like, a pretty well-adjusted teenager. But as a mom, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, you get anxious a lot, so you're not stable. Like, no. You can have high anxiety and still get yourself through things. Fine. In fact, that can teach you coping strategies. But there's just something kind of green about her. And I don't mean the vomit. I mean, does she have the same coping skills that more fucked up members of the academy have? I don't know. Like, I don't think she could roll with the punches that well if one day Ima comes home with a dangerous friend, or Kako goes missing on a detective case. Like, I'm sure she'd be an okay mom. The B tiers are generally like, no, like, you could certainly do much worse. But, like, am I brimming with confidence? I don't think so. Parenting B, she's a good influence. She would be a good influence, and I trust she would always be there for the kids. But then everything kind of gets a little milded out by healing is like C, because I just, like I said in my notes here, like, I think the kids would know more than her about harassment and anxiety, and her most shaping, harsh life experiences have been harassment and anxiety. I just don't feel like there's a great synergy there. But you could go a lot worse than Subasa. I'm sure she would be a fantastic mom in a couple years. Darumi is escaping F tier. Let's just start with that. Darumi has escaped F tier. Now you might be saying, why are you putting Darumi in charge of children? And you'd be, pretty based there. I have a lot to say about Darumi as a mom. Roll with me on this. Resources are C-. I'm not committing to D tier, by the way. Unfortunately, Darumi has no family behind her. Family is out of the picture. She's the most likely person to move out as soon as she gets home, and that's great. Except you have to wonder if she can take care of herself, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. One thing Darumi has going for her is she has a very specific career path, which is that she wants to make video games. She has a lot of passion, and I'm sure any game dev could tell you, having enough money to set yourself up for the next 10 years or so would be a pretty good way to break into the games industry. She knows her niche, she's extremely passionate and knowledgeable, and I think she has a great chance of making it, even if she were an indie artist with no explicit, training or, educational background. I think she could do well. And it's true that, it's easy to imagine Darumi spending money on becoming a game developer in, game developer school and flunking out. But even if she flunked out, I still think Darumi would find her niche. And you might say, how are you going to support yourself with niche killing games? And I would say, well, I don't know. It might send you into debt. But what if you were making eroge? What if you were putting money on the table by making porn games? I think Darumi can put money on the table. I think Darumi has the right niches to like be a known, established indie creator at a young age and just, pay the bills when you need to. Her interests are niche, but one of them is porn. So I think that's going to go really well. It's a tough industry, so I'm not giving her more than a C for resources, but isn't that higher than you would think Darumi would get? And then emotional stability. It's not F. Shoma is the only F. I didn't give her an F, I gave her a D-. Yes, she has every mental illness. Yes, she usually wants to die. Yeah, she has a lot going on, probably, that she doesn't even know. However, she is very aware of what she does have going on, and she's even been very sympathetic with herself and sometimes, like being able to name her mood swings. I don't know what causes her mood swings, but she acknowledges them, and she mostly doesn't let them run her. She has probably the most awareness of mental health issues of anybody in this entire roster, because she's not just going through with being a crazy manic bitch, she understands herself. Like, she's relatively young and has been through so much, and like, she's fighting in her own way. She's not making a lot of progress, but she's fighting in her own way, and that is at least a D- emotional stability with prospects for the future. Parenting is a C. And this is like maybe a little bit spoilery, but I've been playing a route that a lot of people like, and it shows a different side of Darumi once she gets her desire to live back. And when she gets her desire to live back and has somebody who she sees as like a true trusted friend, she is extremely consistent, giving, thoughtful, almost like doting. She can be a very, very good caretaker. She's actually very thoughtful because she knows what you don't want. She understands eating disorders. She understands isolation. She understands so much that she's pretty good at being there for people. However, am I really gonna call her a good influence? I mean, in some ways. And for the Tsukumos, probably, because I don't know if they're at a part in their life where they understand all the stuff that they're coming out of their childhood with. So ultimately, I gave her an S tier for healing potential, because she understands abuse from adults. She understands a lot of different kinds of abuse from adults. She understands how to keep yourself going. She understands isolation. She understands so many things that I'm not even putting her into C tier. I've decided to add her to a C+ tier. If you can't tell, I'm very invested in the idea of Darumi being a mom for the Tsukumos. Realistically, I just want to see more of how she can be a positive influence on them, because as I've seen, she has the potential. It only takes a little bit to get her out of her rut. And she is so knowledgeable in a way that I have never seen the Tsukumos be. They're smart, they're clever, but they're 14, and they don't understand how fucked up they are. But Darumi knows how fucked up she is, and she understands a lot. And I could even go deeper into, I think Kako could help write her games, and that would be really fulfilling. It would be really funny if Ima's mom was paying the bills with porn games, so he didn't have to do what he used to do anymore. I think Darumi is a really interesting positive influence on the kids, and for that reason, I will not put her in B, but I can't put her in C. I really think she's interesting, even if she's just Auntie Darumi. Alright, so now we are moving on to the next two members of the normie trio. I don't know, are they a normie trio? I feel like they might be. I'm just gonna lay my hand right out. I think these three are fine potential parents, but it's hard to get too excited about the potential. Takumi is a lot like Tsubasa. Even more so, he is obviously very good at keeping himself composed for the most part. He has been through a lot. He's going to be coming out of this with maybe the most PTSD. I don't want to compare trauma, but due to certain aspects of the plot, Takumi is probably going to be one of the more affected people by this experience in the ending that I'm hypothetically crafting up here. I put his emotional stability at a B, B-. He just doesn't strike me as somebody who had to be too self-reliant before, but he does a good enough job to, pay the bills or whatever in 100 line. Resources then is a B, and I have to be so careful with Nozomi because I feel like some of her backstory is a spoiler. I'm straight out no, I don't have an opinion. I don't have a firm, hard opinion on her true identity. I will say, at the amount that I've played right now, I don't know if she is who you're thinking she is. I don't know. I just know a good amount of both of their backstories. And okay, Nozomi is definitely worse off with the resources, probably better off with the emotional stability. I feel like she has been through much more than Subasa or Takumi have. And I feel like, she's fine there, but resources, without getting into too many details, I feel as though she has a more fractured home life than I can really say right now. But I just feel like there are still lots of resources for her to use in her family, and especially potential career options are very strong for her. Takumi, less career, more family. I don't know if his mom... the opening cutscene is just like, I don't view that as a home that's ready for a third generation, necessarily. Like, I'm sure his mom would love to help with raising his son and daughter, but, like, nothing about it strikes me as, like, Takumi is grown up enough to be a dad. This is not an opinion I have, and thusly, I don't see his family as being ready to just suddenly take on a third generation. I'm sure he can do whatever he puts his mind to because he's a protagonist and he has a good head on his shoulder and a lot of money, but I just don't know with him. And then parenting, B- Takumi, like, he's definitely alright with, maybe he's not that great with Ima, but he's definitely good with Kako, and he's generally good at listening. Listening is one of his greatest skills. Like, he can listen, which is very good for building a relationship with his adopted kids. And he's very giving in his ways, but I wouldn't call him like a superstar nurturing figure. However, Nozomi does step up in some cases, and when she's serious about something, she can seriously take care of people. And that's very strong. I do feel like she again, like a B- emotional stability. Like, I'm sure she could, if she had to, for sure, keep herself and her kids going. But, like, I don't strike her as somebody who has a ton to give. Like, she definitely has something to give, but does she have a ton? I don't know. I guess she's like a slightly more tame version of Darumi in some ways when I look at these particular things. And then I gave Takumi a B for healing. Like, sure, like, again, the listening. I'm sure he could do something to help the kids, like, cope and adjust to their lives. I gave Nozomi a B-. Yeah, I made a note. Pray forgive me for not finding the check notes Nozomi and Tsukumo content, but it's just tough for me to picture their dynamic. Maybe Ima would respect her, maybe Kako would find her really interesting, but I don't know enough about their dynamic. And then with Takumi, it's like, I do know their dynamic, and it's like fine. So they're just like B's. They have enough going on, they have enough resources available. There's nothing wrong with them suddenly becoming young parents. It's just I don't have quite as much confidence as I do the A tiers and the S tiers. And I think I would put Tsubasa a little bit higher. I don't know what it is, something about these three. It's like Nozomi might be a little bit fragile, and Takumi is a bit of a wild card. Tsubasa, though, like, she is really, like, I feel like she's always very emotionally present. Not that the other two aren't, but Subasa's always, like, very with it. She's very, like, able to give her reaction on things. She's very, I don't know, there aren't many clouds in her mind. She's very lucid, I feel, and that is a great trait for being emotionally present with your family members. Kurada's not leaving. Kurada is not leaving F tier. It's time to talk about that. She has our only S in resources. Tomato Head has our only S in resources, because anyone who enters her family is going to be thrust into the upper echelons of all of the residential complex society and given riches and status beyond their wildest dreams. Sounds good. Emotional stability, I would do a B+. My note is, people are not happy about Kurada. Kurada isn't happy with Kurada, but she's probably going to rock this state in a fairly stable manner until the day she dies. Like, she doesn't have it all together, but she also never really breaks from her way of being she is in, and I feel like nothing's ever going to change that, whether she's commanding kids around or commanding workers around. I feel like she's just kind of Kurada, and she's always going to be that way. I'm sure she wouldn't be too flustered by suddenly being a young mom. Parenting. Okay, so for C, I don't think she would be an awful mom. Like, I think she has some potential to be a good friend. She is a good friend sometimes. And I feel like, if it's a matter of family, she would take that very seriously. And of course, she is very disciplined. She is very talented. I'm sure she can provide a lot for a child if she got in her head, I'm going to provide for a child. But I don't think she is a good influence. I don't think the Tsukumos certainly would gain much from being her child. I think she's a bad influence. And worst of all, she has an F in healing. I believe that's the only F in healing that I gave. This ultimately nets out to an F. Again, you have to it's not a perfect averaging of everything, because resources, there's a lot of A's. An S isn't that impressive, but an F in healing and a bad influence in parenting, that's a big problem. See, the thing is, Kurada hates poor people. And she makes poor people feel bad for what they are, and she has a fundamental beef and misunderstanding because her hatred is built on a misunderstanding of people in other classes. Somebody like Gaku could maybe roll with the punches because he can kind of fight back and stuff, but as snarky as Ima is, unless he's gonna kill her, I don't think putting up with constant belittling or at the most benign confusion about what it means to, I don't know, grow up in a dumpster, I don't think they need to deal with that with Kurada. I think she would be a terrible influence on them. I don't think she's equipped at all to be a healing figure in their life. I think she is a very, very bad influence on the future of their mental health. Yeah, she has her stuff, she has her complexes, but I don't see her dealing earnestly with any kind of crushing kind of mental health tragedy that is making her the perfect silver bullet for helping these kids heal. I think she's a mess. Eito, I have 0 notes on, because I personally have my feeling in my gut that I just think Eito would be a bad father. No matter what age. I just don't think Eito has parenting in him. I can't really explain it. I feel maybe you catch my vibe, but I don't think Eito can be a father. I don't think he'd be a very good father, at least. Now, Gaku. Here's the other character I have a lot of things to say about, and this is a spicy meatball, because now we're talking about the Orphan Trio, an established part of 100 Line. 3 characters who are mostly defined by just kind of being dumped into a very tough life situation and kind of having it run them down to the point where a lot of their personality is, especially for Ima and Gaku, yeah, he's very jumpy because his life is awful and he has no time to be any other way. Gaku as a dad. Again, I don't think that concept should inspire much confidence, but let me walk through everything here. Resources are an A+. Hear me out. He has very little. He has a group home, and he has a bazillion part-time jobs. But he has the best work ethic of anybody here. Maybe I said Takimaru has the best one, but I was thinking personal betterment and training. In terms of straight up making the bills, there's nobody who grinds as hard as Gaku. And he's been grinding like a hamster on a treadmill for so long that he is made for making money. He is very financially minded. And if you give this guy a ton of money, yeah, I think he's gonna blow some of it on I don't know, party favors. He's gonna be a little bit irresponsible, but I have a lot of confidence that whatever he decides to do with himself in terms of career stuff, he's going to destroy it because he's going to work himself like a dog and he's going to go really far. So I think Gaku has a very bright future in terms of money stuff if he is given a shitload of money for his time at 100 Line Last Defense Academy. So that's great. He doesn't have much going on with his family stuff because probably leaving the group home and moving out on his own would be I don't know. Okay, maybe actually he has a great network of family members if he does stay close with the group home kids. I'm going to go on the assumption that he does care quite a lot about them. I know there's some rocky stuff with, like, he seems pretty fed up with them at a certain point because of how much he has to do to provide for them, which is what being a mom is like. But in the end, he does seem to care about them a lot. So maybe he has a lot of family members, but it's not in the traditional sense. So I don't know if you can call in favors to the other kids in the group home. I'm not sure. It doesn't exactly sound like he can. Emotional stability is a D. Gaku is not very emotionally stable, and he has a very long road ahead of him. That's probably the biggest hurdle, or one of the biggest hurdles here, is he's not emotionally stable at all. I mean, he has a functional set of coping skills, maybe, but like, no. Like, I don't necessarily know how deep his mental struggles go, but like, he's not doing great, and he's always freaking out. Like, Gaku has some stuff to work on, for sure. And again, like, there are things going in his direction for the future, but this is mostly a ranking of the second the Tsukumos need a couch to crash on. Whose couch are they crashing on? Gaku's apartment might be a great place, but can he really be more than an annoying roommate? And that is where we get into parenting. Gaku is, of course, very selfish. And I'll say straight out, Ima will never respect him. Maybe someday, if we're being very generous, he could come to respect him. Kako is fine. Ima walks all over this guy. Is he really going to view him as a parental figure? Well, here's the thing. In the context of the story, it doesn't matter. But I feel like he is able to provide, obviously, very effectively. That is like his main trait, is providing constantly, thanklessly, for people who are depending on him. And the thing is, like, that is something that the Tsukumos have never had. So it's possible, that the interpersonal stuff could be worked out, and he wouldn't just be viewed as, like, frankly, kind of a lesser Ima sometimes. Like, they're very different characters in similar situations, but like, in terms of just like being a person who has influence on other people, Ima almost has more aura, but like, at the same time, Gaku is 3 years older than him, and it's possible they could have a very good relationship, like friendship or otherwise. Like, it's possible they could have a great bond over the fact that they're both like hardcore grind set guys who are constantly working and stuff. But the thing is, I feel like whether or not we're doing this scenario, if Gaku does move out of the group home and suddenly has all this money, I don't know how you change from such an extreme lifestyle on the dime. And also, like, he doesn't have family outside the group home, so I feel like he's going to have a gigantic void to fill. And I kind of didn't say this properly, like, Darumi getting mental stability from having somebody to take care for, that's not always the most stable setup for a parent-child relationship. But in Gaku's case, I don't necessarily think that his mental health hinges on having somebody depending on him. I feel like it's more just what he's used to, and he'll just be less happy if he's not providing for people, especially if all of a sudden, like, bam, he's out of the group home, he's not providing that anymore. Like, I don't know, I feel like Gaku would be more than happy to have some people kind of, you know, not leeching off him anymore, but, you know, leaning on him. Maybe he just wants to be independent, maybe he just wants to have his bachelor pad, I don't know. But when I look at these stories, and when I'm reading them in the lens of, if they were to adopt the Tsukumos, I feel like he would have a lot to give. I feel like he'd have a tremendous amount to give. And then, when it comes to healing, I think it's gotta be like a B+. Like, he's not a king of mental health, he's no Darumi. But, because she's so good at mental health, he doesn't have like the experience that some of the more mentally unwell students have, but he understands their lifestyle better than damn anybody. Of course, I don't think he's been abused by adults the way that Darumi and Ima and presumably Kako all have, but he understands the world that they live in and stuff like that. So having, if they flip the switch, and I'd love to see this somewhere in the game, if they flipped the switch and started to respect Gaku, I think that would do a lot for the Tsukumos. So ultimately, I'm going to do something similar to Darumi and give him B+. I cannot give him A, but I feel very strongly, once again, that Gaku would be a very interesting guardian or parent figure for the Tsukumos, because again, he's so much like them, but in a very different way. Like, he brings a very different, more self-reliance, obviously, set to the table. And like, I just feel like because so much of his story so far has hinged around like actually caring about his group home, like brothers and sisters, I feel like there's a big family factor in his life, a non-traditional family factor. And the thing is, the entire orphan trio, none of them have relatives and stuff. Like, some of these people, like, maybe have missing parent figures. Like, I don't know. Are Kyoshika's parents alive? I don't fucking know. Like, some of these people do have very broken families and stuff like that, but they have extended family. These guys don't have extended family. Like, these guys really have nothing but each other, in my mind. So I feel like the potential for healing and understanding is so freaking high with Gaku. But he's really not cut out for being a dad right now, so I'm being generous by saying B+. And now... and now we get to the spiciest meatballs in the pasta salad. Yugamu, A tier. I can't tell you what rank I would give him for healing, because I don't know. This is going to be a mess. I'm not going to run things down normally. I have not seen the Tsukumo Yugamu dynamic yet. I have not seen the Omokage Tsukumo dynamic yet. If Imo looked up to Yugamu as like at least a big brother, you know, like some figure to lean on, that would be so interesting. Because on some level, they have very similar themes in their life, where Yugamu's like, I've already rejected my humanity. But when he says that, he means like, oh, I've been physically modified. I'm like a bit of a mutant now, like a surgically modified person now. Like, oh, I abandoned my humanity and my sense of normalcy ages ago. But like, being abused in the way that Ima has been abused for such a long time as a child has changed so much of how he views the world and has warped his personality in so many ways that like if Yugamu's actually interested in the concept of humanity and changing and that kind of thing, like does he actually have a grasp on like depression and PTSD? Like does he? I don't know if he does. Like the funniest thing about all of this is that like I don't know if I'm not convinced that Yugamu likes girls. I'm still not convinced Darumi likes boys. There are things I just haven't seen yet out of these two. But for the first time ever, I've been wondering about like a Darugamu thing because their skill sets and their experiences are so interesting with the Tsukumos. So again, I'm being hypothetical about like the mental health side. Like, okay, there's really not much there to work with. However, when it comes to resources and making a living and stuff, can you imagine Ima living with a fucking assassin? There are so many ways that this ends with Ima becoming an assassin to just make ends meet, because we know he can kind of just turn out the lights inside and do what has to be done. But will he continue to go down that path? Is he going to continue to just like dissociate to get by? If so, could Yugamu make that into like a productive part of his character by making him part of the family business as a hired killer? Is that what he wants? The thing is, Yugamu could potentially be a bad influence. That's why I don't put him in S tier, because I don't think the narrative says, yeah, Ima, just check out, surrender your entire future to doing like crazy, gut-wrenching stuff. Just start killing people. Just Ima, start killing people. Who cares anymore? That doesn't sound healthy. And it has nothing to do with Kako. But, Yugamu is well connected into his family still. He has a clear career path set ahead from him, and he understands working in the shadows and working in a bit more of the underworld, so he could present a potential reality where the Tsukumos don't have to leave behind everything they know, which is a very touchy subject, I suppose, but you know, he may be able to practically integrate some of the things that Ima is already good at into a more healthy thing, and you can't really deny the potential of that. Mental stability, I'm giving this guy an S. He's the only guy I've ever given an S to for emotional stability. Nobody else here is getting an S. But I feel like only kind of out there people, I'm not even like making a generalization or anything, because like I feel like in order to have S tier unshakable mental stability, you have to kind of be living in your own world. And whatever this dude is doing, from what I've seen so far, he is unshakable. Whatever he is, he is that to a T. He is so happy to be himself. And that is very, very good. That is very, very grounding. Like, the fact that, like, the dark isn't off topic, like, isn't taboo, like, the fact that he can just dwell in the darkness and weird stuff like that, he might be a fantastic parental figure for the Tsukumos. I don't know. But as, like, parenting, why did I write... Okay. Going off the notes. S/F. He seems caring enough. He wouldn't experiment on anybody without consent. However, he runs a risk of turning Ima into an assassin. So, like, yeah, he does seem to care a lot for others. He is also a great influence in that he's very passionate. He loves doing what he does, and I'm sure that Kako would really like that. Like, he is very, like, hobby-driven, very objective-oriented. He's a very talented guy, which I think both of them would really appreciate. When it comes to the emotional nurturing side, I haven't seen much. I think that's kind of one of the weak points here. But this dude is such a mixed bag of some of the most potentially fascinating possibilities, but also some of the scariest ones that I'm going to say again. If he's choosing to adopt the Tsukumos and he's putting effort into like, being a dad for them, he might be like one of the perfect dads. But it's hard to say. Now, to finish off with a good feeling in our chests, based on even more conjecture, I think Moko would also be an A-tier mom. No, this one I have seen the least of. I have seen very little of Moko and the Tsukumos. But there is this thing that I am basing this on, where in one timeline, Ima, as soon as Moko enters the picture, becomes so much more relaxed and almost like kind of positive. They're just passing comments, but when Ima makes a passing comment in a conversation, it's usually like tearing somebody down, raising suspicions about something, saying, I won't be doing that because of Sister Dearest. I've never seen him go along with a bit. But when Moko like introduces herself in one of these timelines, she's like, I am the eternal phoenix of destruction. He's like, and I will join you as the cruel prince of the underworld. It's like, bro, did you just own your identity? Like, my thing with Ima is like, what does he enjoy and what is he just doing because he has to? To see him like unflinchingly take a name that absolutely has complicated, heavy memories associated with it and have fun with it a little bit and like go along with her bit a little bit is crazy. And it really made me happy. Like, there were other comments where Ima just seemed to kind of relax into her presence, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, she is a gigantic presence. She's very confident, very smart. She seems to be very just like emotionally like stable and happy and stuff like that. She seems to be a very solid, well-rounded person. So from my impression so far, I feel like just that alone might make someone like him relax, where he had no reason to trust any of the other big presences so far. Like, Hiruko didn't have his best interest in mind. Takumi doesn't know what he's doing. Takemaru is a great guy, and he could be an excellent dad, but there's no guarantee that Takimaru is going to make everything be okay in a way that Ima can't handle on his own, because the kid's like freaking omnipotent. But I totally get seeing somebody with as big of like a presence as Moko and feeling like, okay, I think things are gonna be okay now. Like, she's big enough to actually make him respect her. And even more so, I always wonder, like, there's this flamboyant side to him, there's this kind of showman-y side to him. Does Moko make him feel more confident and comfortable with enjoying that? Because, like, Yugamu could help him enjoy, like, I don't know, being able to zone out and kill people and stab people. I feel like there's a way healthier thing with Moko where, like, does her wrestler thing and all of, like, the drama behind it, all of the, like, you know, the backstage, the inside baseball, the behind-the-scenes stuff, like, does that fascinate him because of his own life experiences? There's a potentially super wholesome thing that I am zeroing in on with Ima and Moko, and I'm hella curious. Then with Kako, I feel like she would be a good mom for Kako because of the Takimaru thing, where Kako likes people who work hard, at least in the story so far. She likes passionate people, she wants to push herself, she wants to like grow and stuff. So Moko has been like a really inspiring person whenever she's around for her. So it seems like, even though she probably lacks the emotional nuance to get a really high score on healing, it seems like she would just fit really well with them. There's a lot that I don't know about Moko, but she seems to have good resources because she's already started this wrestling career. She seems like she's just going to continue it as an adult. And I don't know, the crazy world of wrestling show business might be a very comfortable thing for the twins to get wrapped up into. Mental stability, I don't know, whatever she's doing, she seems fine. I would give her an A tier versus an S tier because, again, you need to be a little bit out there, really, really out there to have, 0 bad days, always be on your shit. I'm sure, the stress of the lifestyle she chose gets to her, but, this girl has a lot to offer and seems to really get along with them. And she just, I don't know what it is. She's a lot like Takemaru, where they project really, really big confident energy. I don't think they need 7 more years before they're stable enough to raise somebody. I think the top 3 are Takemaru, Yugamu as a wild card, and Moko. I genuinely think that's such a fun trio. And that's where my research has brought me. So whether it is just being a mentor figure, or a big bro, or just being the couch that they crash on after all of this, or they literally are we don't have anywhere to go, and Takemaru is we can go to Disneyland. I don't know, but this is the tier list for if somebody had to adopt the Tsukumos, and if this is my life's work, that's probably fine. It's a good use of an evening. LMAO.